What is up, RPG nerds? Welcome back to the channel. This is your man, Smooth Gus. And in this video, we will be ranking all of the job, EX, and divine skills in Octopath Traveler 2 in one big ranking video. Before we get into this smooth video, I need to mention a couple of things. The two awesome people who provided the gameplay for this video. First is going to be David Butterlord, and second is going to be, drumroll please, Spellborn. That was really smooth and stupid, and I regret doing that. Anyway, let's get into the F tier. The first ability in the F tier is going to be Mercy Strike. This ability sucks. Like, why? In the first game, yeah, you could capture, you could collect, you could steal and stuff, and it was like kind of okay, but it was mostly just good for capturing and collecting. But here it's so easy to grind with light revenants early in the game that you can just totally collect without, you can totally get money without even worrying about collect. And then capturing, there's 25% auto capture, so there's no point in ever actually clicking the capture button. And then steal is good, but it's pretty easy to steal. You don't really even need Mercy Strike, so this ability is the worst in the game for sure. Next is going to be Holy Light, because there's no reason to have Holy Light when you have Luminescence. Like, it's just way worse. It just hits one person, and it's kind of bad. Alright, let's move on to the next one, which is going to be Ember. Ember is kind of bad. There's so many things that you can be doing that are way better with the Merchant, and the Merchant doesn't have good, like, magic attack. And, of course, there is already Fireball. There is already all the... Nope, there's no other fire abilities. Elemental Barrage. But, like, even the Conjurer abilities, like, really, Ember's just kind of bad. Icicle is a little bit better because I feel like the Apothecary makes a little bit more sense to be using Icicle than the Merchant is going to be using Ember. But, like, still sucks. Same with Thunderbird, same idea, but I feel like I don't even know anymore. They're all bad. That's basically what I'm saying. All three of these are like almost equally bad. But yeah, Holy Light is a little bit worse because they're lit, like the Cleric literally also has Luminescence, but these other three are also just as bad and just as bad as they were in the first game. And then the next in the F tier is going to be Rite of the Sun, which takes away like 6 turns to heal your party to full HP, revive all of them, and buff their physical and elemental defense. That is so terrible. Just use Provoke Beasts with Ochette, summon Lucky Kate like 6 times. You could have your whole party healed, revived, have like a million OP buffs, and like, or even just using the revive ability, or using a Cassie's Concoct or something. Rite of the Sun is kind of trash. I can see it being like all right if you just want to be using it at the end of battle or something, so that you can just like do a full heal before battle, but like you don't really need that anyway. Just buy a couple Inspiriting Plums and spam healing. I don't really know. Rite of the Sun is kind of trash. Alright, let's move on to Bifflegan's Bounty, which is going to be the last in the F tier. It's just kind of bad, like in the first game, but here it's even easier to grind, I feel like. I mean, there's no eye for money, but there's also easy ways to cheese enemies really early in the game, so I mean, I don't know. Bifflegan's Bounty is not that great, and there are insane ways to deal damage in this game, and dealing really subpar damage for like a little bit of money is not ever really worth it. Alright, let's move to the D tier. And the first in the D tier is going to be Eye for Money. Wait, what? I said that so confidently, guys. I meant Arrow of Fortune. That's a big fail. Alright, anyway. It gives you a little bit of JP, and I don't think it's worth it. Like, it's like 9 JP for, it's like each like 1,000 damage or something you do, you get like 1 JP. It's kind of trash. However, the reason it's not an F tier is because I feel like it does a little bit more damage than a basic attack. So like using it at the very beginning of the game was like my best way of dealing damage with Partitio for about 20 minutes. And I think that that's better than everything else that these F tier abilities could offer, being good for 20 minutes, but still kind of trash. Let's move on to Swift Step. It just increases your speed. It's so easy to increase your speed with this game with items or like beasts or anything. And using Windy Refrain, Stimulate, or Like Will Trap is infinitely better than increasing speed. Just like I said in the first game, the only reason you should really use... Oh, and this only hits yourself, so that's really bad. The only reason I would ever use Swift Step is if I was trying to get Abra's Reckoning set up and deal extra damage with Abra's Reckoning. But, of course, Abra's Reckoning is way weaker in this game because there's so many broken things that you can do. So I personally think that Swift Step is garbage. Then Abide is the same idea. Like, it's just kind of bad. So, yeah. But it buffs your attack, which is a much better stat than speed, unless you're doing Abra's Reckoning, but even still, it's pretty bad. Then Lion Dance buffs your attack. But like I was just saying, in this game, just preparing a couple of jerky items with Ochette will get you plenty of buffs. Like, you do not ever need to ever have a dancer secondary job. The only person who should ever be a dancer is Agnia, because she has a dance session and because of like Windy Refrain and Song of Hope. Otherwise, just pass on the whole dancer job, and Lion Dance is a great example of what not to do. Then Stout Wall is pretty bad too, but I think it's a little bit better because if you're just trying to do a challenge, like challenging someone, use Stout Wall, Insight, Vengeful Blade, it's okay. I think Stout Wall is a little bit better than Lion Dance, but still trash. Peacock Strut, also kind of trash. Just the Ochet's items, like you can get those so early in the game, and you can, I mean, yes, you're going to have to grind for a little bit, but it's never worth having the dancer secondary job just for these minute buffs. Stroke of Genius is next. It's random, but it gives you 2 stat buffs, and it can give you some OP stat buffs, so I was like, okay, you know what? I'll put it here. It's a little bit better than the last few, but still, honestly, really bad. So all of those previous ones are just things you can easily get with items. There definitely are buffs in this game that are very good, but those buffs right there are just not. So next we have Piercing Thrust, which is probably like the weakest damage ability in the game outside of the like level 0 spells, Mercy Strike and Arrow of Fortune. It's just, it has a 25% chance to critical hit, and it deals a little bit more damage than a normal attack. But it's just so underwhelming. I never found a time that I was using Piercing Thrust over any other damaging ability. If you like it, I'm okay with that, obviously. Like, but it's just like a worse version of True Strike in the first game, which I already thought was pretty bad. But, I mean, I don't know. At least it's decent at the very beginning, right when you get Hikari. But also, right when you get Hikari, he already comes with that one learn skill. I can't remember what it's called, but it's default learn skill. And that's already better than this. So, I don't know. Piercing Thrust is kind of bad. Alright, next is Replenished Health. Like I said in the last video, seriously, just ignore regen in Octopath games. I mean, it's nice to have on an accessory if you have nothing better to equip, but there's no reason to waste your time using Replenished Health and having regen when you could just actually heal health. Like, come on, it's bad. A little bit better than in the first game, because in the first game, Saving Grace just trivializes all regen. In this game, it's a little harder to get over heal, but it's not hard enough that you should ever be using this anyway. And then next is going to be Weak to Poison. This is pretty bad, but also not too bad. Like, if you want to be weak to Poison, then Poison Axe. Poison Axe I thought was going to be better than Empoison, but then I realized that Empoison you could go for 8 turns, and then Poison Axe is only a 2-turn deal. So I was really sad about that, actually, because I loved Empoison in the first game. I actually put it in the S tier. I loved that ability a lot. But Weak to Poison just makes Poison Axe slightly better, and it's nothing too good, honestly. It's kind of depressing. And then the last in the C tier is going to be Spirit Lord Staff Deliverance. This ability is kind of trash, because the point is that it's a staff attack that does more damage the more elemental attack you have. Guess what also does that, and much better? Magic. Why would I use an attack that does more damage with elemental attack when I could be using magic? I don't know. I think it's stupid. I never equip the Spirit Lord Staff on my Arms Master. I equip it on someone else because I never use this ability. It's kind of bad. Speaking of the Arms Master, now let's get into the C tier. And the first in C tier is going to be Bulwark. Why? I mean, this is like okay if you like have really, if you're trying to like be a tank and have a lot of physical defense and you want to do damage that increases with your physical defense. But like, I don't know. Other than Spirit Lord Staff, I barely use this ability. I think it's a little bit better than Spirit Lord Staff, so I put it in C tier. But come on, it's still pretty terrible. Like, don't lie to yourself if you think this is good. Next is going to be Rest. I just feel like there's so many ways to restore HP and SP and stuff. I put Rest higher on the last one. But also, I just feel like, yeah, Casty's Concoct is so easy to spam if you have like full power support skill, that there's never a time where I thought Rest was actually worth using in this game. So sorry, Rest fans, but I think it's pretty bad. Healing Touch is another one that I thought I would like better than like First Aid or Vivify in the first game, because Healing Touch can heal you and it can revive you. So kind of like how healing works in like Live Alive or something. But like Healing Touch, yeah, it can revive, but it does like minimal healing. Like barely any healing compared to like First Aid in the first game, which actually healed like more health than heal wounds. This heals like 200 health. It's so bad. I'd rather just use a Healing Grape. The reason it's in C tier is because it can revive somebody, which is okay, and I think it's nice, but nothing too good. Next is going to be Prayer for Rain, which is regen but for SP, which I think is definitely a little bit better than HP regen, because SP is a little bit harder to get, and just regenning SP is nice for regular battles, but still it's nothing too good. Next is going to be Analyze, which is pretty bad in this game, judging that you can have Akala or Mahina, just you can summon them, and then they can reveal weaknesses for you. Oswald's Study Foe is buffed over Cyrus's, because instead of just revealing one per battle, it reveals one, and then each subsequent battle it reveals extra, like 2, you know. It's just Analyze never was really worth using in my opinion, and like, yeah, so Akala Mahina can easily knock out weaknesses. I picked Akala. I'd go Akala, weakness, and then I would check with Elemental Barrage, because I'll be using those two things anyway a lot of the time. And then by the time I've used those, I've pretty much figured out their weakness by how it's ordered. Like, I don't know, I never really had to use Analyze, and this game I feel like is a little bit less centered toward exploiting weaknesses, since there's so many ways to lower shield points even without that, with Temenos and with what are some Ochet's latent power as well. What are some other examples? Ruinous Kick, the one that what's his face has, Hikari, the one that just reduces shields. Like, there are all these things, like you can get 5 shields reduced there. Just, I don't feel like breaking is as important in this game either, and I just feel like Analyze is just completely outclassed, honestly. I mean, it's still C tier, but in the first game I put it at like bottom of A tier because I thought it was a lot more useful in that game. Anyway, talking about Analyze for too long. Next is going to be Collect. It's okay. It's always nice to use against bosses to get that extra leave bonus, but it's so easy to grind in this game. Early game, Light Revenant, you can get more money than you'd ever imagine. In the first game, like, you had to purchase forbidden equipment and you had to do all this, but there's nothing in this game really that's worth purchasing other than items, and items are still pretty cheap. So the only thing, like, everything you can steal, there's nothing that's only purchasable really, and even things that are only purchasable, quote unquote, you can still entreat. So like, basically there's nothing that's actually worth wasting a bunch of money on. The thing I spent the most money on was getting multiple like guild thingies for the merchant or hired help. Like, that's what I spent all my money on. I just didn't really see a point of spending money that much in this game, and it's so easy to grind. So Collect was pretty mid in my opinion. Next is going to be Stimulate, which is basically, it just moves someone up a turn. It's basically just a worse Windy Refrain or like Hold Trap. There were a couple times where I used it to just like get someone to go before an enemy, or get someone to go before a different character to make so they could buff that other character, but otherwise it was very situational. Hardly ever used it. Next is going to be Take Aim, because it's kind of hard. I mean, it's kind of bad still, but accuracy is a little bit harder to buff in this game than all the other stats. But like, Critical Scope completely outclasses this ability other than the accuracy, because the critical hit chance is barely worth anything. And accuracy, there's nothing that's like really hard to hit in this game. I mean, the only thing I can think of is like a Kate or something, and there's no reason to do that because you could just be using spells on it. Honestly, I wouldn't really use this. it's not like there's like Thousand Spears or Arrow Storm in this game either, where you're hitting a bunch of times. I can't, and it like misses a lot of the time, whereas buffing accuracy in the first game was actually a pretty good idea if you wanted to spam Arrow Storm and stuff. Here it's not really worth using, so I don't know, kind of embarrassing. Next is Dagger Dance, an all-hitting dagger ability. It's not as good as Aber's Reckoning or the Arms Master Dagger ability or a lot of other abilities. It's just okay. It's nice, I guess, early game for the Dancer to have an offensive option and hit everybody, but still, there are so many better things that you can be doing. Just get a different job, even. Just don't use the Dancer. Like I've been saying, it's bad. Anyway, Sweeping Cleave is the same idea, but with an axe. I think it's a little bit better since the Apothecary is like a better job, and axes are generally stronger, but still not anything that good. Next is going to be Enervating Slash. Nope, not Enervating Slash. That's Drastic Measures, which is going to take away the enemy's debuffs to deal extra damage. A lot of people were telling me in my last video when I said that this was not terrible, but the worst EX skill. I was telling them it's my least favorite. A lot of people are like, oh yeah, you can early game 9,999 all this, but if I'm going to be debuffing an enemy, I want them to be debuffed. I know a lot of people did like using this ability, but I'm debuffing an enemy for a reason, not to deal damage. So, yeah. I don't really like drastic measures that much. Enervating Slash I like a little bit better because I can use some weird thing like a Remedy or Stroke of Genius and put stupid stat buffs on and then go back and just get rid of them with Enervating Slash to deal extra damage. But still, just drastic measures, I don't like it that much. Still C tier for me. Cleaving Blow I do like, but it's not that powerful. Depending on what enemy you hit, it gives you a stat buff, but again, it's kind of random. And yeah, it deals okay damage, but there's still so many better options out there, and I'd rather know what stat buff I'm getting. So yeah, I do like this better than the last two because it's beneficial instead of negative, but it's still probably weaker than the last two, just more my vibe. Next is going to be Conqueror's Sword, Celestial Roar. A lot of people are like, this is pretty strong. I honestly never found this to be very strong. I think the max I did with it, even with one of the best weapons in the game, was 9,000. Maybe that was something wrong with me, but Hikari's Learn Skills, Sixfold Strike, what's the axe one called? Lionheart's Axe on the Hunt, Warlord Spear, Giant Swing, all these other Arms Master abilities are so much better in my opinion. And Conqueror's Sword makes you wait the entire turn to use it. I don't know. I think it's kind of annoying. It's not the worst ability in the game, but it's not the best either. Hunter's Bow, Flurry of Arrows. I can't really think of a time where this is actually that great, because if you break the enemy, the ability triggers again, but it's kind of hard to break an enemy when it's just a one-hit ability. So basically, the only time I can think of using this is if you've already whittled down some bird enemies, and then you use this ability, and then it goes twice and finishes them off. But Hunter's Bow, Flurry of Arrows is not nearly as good as Precise Shot, not nearly as good as Dreyfendi's Bow, not nearly as good as most of these other abilities. So I think it's pretty terrible. Next is going to be Brand's Blade. Brand's Blade isn't bad. It's just okay. It deals good damage. But yeah, it's a divine skill, and there are so many better things you can be doing with your BP, dealing more damage. And the funniest thing to me is that Shinjimanji Giri has a better damage multiplier than Brand's Blade. That isn't even a divine skill. And it hits everybody. And then hits again. I don't know, Brand's Blade is just kind of sad compared to some of these other abilities on this list. Sixfold Blade is better in my opinion. I even liked Poison Axe better than Brand's Blade, and that's kind of embarrassing. So I don't know. Brand's Blade was not my favorite. And if I want a strong sword attack, I'm going to be sticking with Hikari's Learn Skills. Next is going to be Darkest Night, which is a single target dark attack. So you're like, why is this so much higher than Holy Light? Because for quite actually a little bit of time, it's your only dark attack. And same with Sweeping Gale, which is going to be next. They're your only dark and wind attacks for a little bit. And yeah, you can go to those EX skill shrines and unlock a new one. But if you want to have a darker wind attack before getting the advanced jobs, you're going to have to put a secondary job class, either thief on somebody or dancer. And those are going to be your only ways of dealing dark and wind damage consistently for a while. So, like, or if you don't want to have Throne or Agni on your party. So I think they're not too bad. They're still C tier because they're still weak. But if you want to be breaking for dark and wind attacks, they're pretty good. The next 3 abilities, I'm going to mesh them all together. Conjure, Fire, Ice, and Lightning. I don't really love what they did with the Conjure in this game, because basically it's like the Rune Lord. It hits everyone. Like, it gives everyone, like, lightning damage or whatever, but it's way weaker than runes were in the first game, and I was really disappointed in how that ended up. I put Conjure, Fire, Ice, and Lightning right here. I put Gust a little bit higher because it is definitely better, because Wind is a lot harder to come by, and it's like kind of the ultimate wind skill other than Windy Refrain, which is really sad to say, but it's the only advanced job wind skill, so I think that one's a little bit better. But Fire, Ice, and Lightning, come on, use Elemental Barrage. Seriously, I mean, it's nice to deal a little extra damage, but it's not really ever worth it. And yeah, so that's going to be the top of C tier. And next, we're going to be moving into the B tier. And the first in B tier is going to be HP Thief. This is not as good as it was in the first game, but still a 2-hit dagger attack that restores some health. I couldn't put it in C tier. It's just kind of cool. It's kind of good. And it's not like great or anything. It really is like the middle of this list. Like the exact middle, I would say. It's not great. It's not bad. It's just there. Same with Mystical Staff. I think it's a little bit better because it's restoring SP, but also it does less damage because inherently staves aren't as powerful. And if you have a cleric on, you're probably not going to be dealing that much damage. Late in the game, it can actually be really great at restoring SP, but also late in the game, you also can buy as many Inspiriting Plums as you want, so kind of stupid. But they're both pretty good. They double hit staff attack, double hit knife attack, restoring some HP and SP. Nothing really going wrong there. I kind of like them. Okay, next, let's move into Teach. This gives all your status buffs to another ally, but you still keep them, right? Which is kind of cool. It's just kind of unconventional. I can't really think of a time where like I really needed to use this. I can't remember if it can teach other people like divine skill buffs. It might be able to. And if it can, I probably could have put it higher on this list, because if you like Seal Teach, Seduction Teach, and then you give everyone divine buffs, that could be really good actually. I don't know. I might just totally not know how to use Teach at all, but I just feel like it's a little bit weird to use. It's not really something I ever found myself using. It's not like bad or anything, but it's kind of just weird. That's how I felt about the next ability too, Disguise. It turns Throne into another one of your characters for a few turns, which is like really, really cool in theory. But like, when you only have 4 characters, you've already really given them defined roles. And I don't really see a time where I wanted to waste a turn to turn into a different character when I could just be doing something on my own. Like, both Teach and Disguise, I feel like, are things that could be really good if used correctly, but things that are hard to use correctly. So I just put them in B tier. I don't really know where else to put them. Next is going to be Ruinous Kick, which is awesome early in the game, because breaking those shields is so easy. Using Agni as latent power altogether now, breaking one shield off of everybody is awesome. But once you start getting like Temenos' Judgment all buffed up with like Scholar and Dancer Divine Skill, or let's see, Chet even can be just as good as this. Or yeah, there's a lot of things, but Ruinous Kick is a very solid ability early in the game, and it is really Agnia's main DPS for quite a while. So I don't know. I feel like Ruinous Kick is never bad, but it's not too good either. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Right, next is going to be BP Boost, which I don't know what they thought here, because BP Boost in the first game was already pretty mid. I mean, I think I still put it higher on that list than 71st place, but BP Boost was already kind of mid, and then they went and made it a divine skill in this game. Wow. And then they put it on the worst job class. Interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. A second worst job class. Dancer's worse. What were they thinking here? I don't even know if Dancer might be better because Seal Teach Seduction. Anyway, Conjure kind of sucks. But They went and put the worst divine skill, not the worst, one of the worst divine skills. It was a mid skill from the first game. They made it divine skill and put it on the worst the worst job class. What were they thinking here? I don't even know. I don't know. BP boost is just about as weird as it can get. Like I said in the first game, it's kind of convoluted because it's good because it's giving you extra BP, but since Casti and Particio can be insane BP batteries anyway, and just the fact that you have to wait that extra turn and not have a charged attack, I don't know, BP boost is not really my favorite, but I guess it's kind of good because it's giving you extra BP, and I'm not going to be complaining about that, but whatever. Anyway, Poison Axe is next. I wanted to love Poison Axe. I kept using it and I kept having faith in it. Then I was just like, okay, this sucks. It's not nearly as good as Poison was in the first game because it can, yeah, when you boost it, it does extra damage. It doesn't last longer, which is so sad because I loved Poison in the first game. And it was still good. It was like my main DPS for Casti for a while, like I was saying about Runa's Kick, but it's nothing all that special. Next is going to be Aber's Reckoning, which I put so much higher on the last list, but there's just so many other abilities like Shinjumanji Giri, or a lot of the spells or Arms Master abilities or learned skills. And since the advanced jobs are honestly like easy to get in this game, like I got most of them like Chapter 3, Chapter 2 even. I got a couple of them. I even got Inventor before Chapter 2. And then I got Arms Master like Chapter 3, and I got Arcanist Chapter 3. I think Conjurer took me till Chapter 4, but like for the characters, probably not even, no, probably like late Chapter 3. Like all these things are very easy to get early on, so like you have all these broken things that you can have, and then also, yeah, Akari just existing. So Aber's Reckoning really isn't as good as it was in the first game. Probably still nice for about 5 minutes on Throne, but really Arms Master comes around and just takes the cake at this point. So kind of sad, just really sad, honestly. The next is going to be Conjure Gusts. Like I was saying earlier, this is the ultimate wind ability, which is kind of sad, but the fact that this is kind of the ultimate wind ability, it kind of felt like I had to put it here. Well, other than Windy Refrain, I just couldn't put it with the other ones when it's so easy to just use Elemental Barrage. So if someone's just mostly weak to wind, this is nice, but most enemies are weak to tons of things. So honestly, this isn't way too good, but I think it deserves to be a little bit higher than those other ones because it is one of the only ways to actually deal wind damage in this game. Alright, now next is going to be Abating Orb, which dispels buffs from the enemy. It's kind of bad though because it's random, and to like actually disable all the buffs, you're gonna have to put it on max boost, which this is kind of a weird thing to put on max boost. But yeah, if they only have like one buff, yeah, use Abating Orb. But if you don't, like, I wouldn't waste boosting too much on this thing. But yeah, if you just have a spare turn trying to get rid of an enemy debuff, Abating Orb is never all that bad. But yeah. Alright, next we are going to move finally into the A tier. And the first in the A tier is going to be Eye for Money. Just kidding. I'm not going to make that same mistake again. That was so embarrassing. Y'all, I don't know what I was doing there. That was just a complete disaster. But anyway, let's talk about the A tier. And the first in A tier is going to be Dancer's Blade, Mischievous Step. This is a multi-hit dagger ability. And yes, it's not as good as I was hoping it was going to be because it hits more times depending on how many enemies there are. But honestly, if you're just trying to hit multiple enemies, go for Warlord Spear Giant Swing. However, if you're trying to hit a single target, this is actually a really good way to break someone who's weak to knife attacks. It's basically just a more expensive aggressive slash at that point, but for daggers. So I think it's kind of good, but not as good as aggressive slash, which I put in next, which is just really good for breaking enemies weak to swords. This game, Dancer's Blade and aggressive slash are really like the two good breaking abilities outside of like Temenos spamming and stuff, or Ochet's Provoke Beast or anything. But really, since those are really like just superior to these two abilities, I feel like bottom of A tier was the right place for them. Alright, next we have Hex, which is going to increase the amount of time a debuff is on the enemy, and that's kind of good if you have a really good debuff on an enemy, but there's not too many times where I thought this was amazing. It was okay, but like there's not any debuffs that are like that broken, I feel like, that you really need to be using Hex instead of just reusing the debuff, because reusing the debuff is usually just going to increase it by more turns anyway. I can think of like a couple of debuffs, like the one from the Lucky Kate that you can't really get from other things that you want to use Hex or something, but nothing too broken. Next is going to be Seal of Eternity, which is so cool on paper. It makes a buff last forever, but the only buffs, I don't know if it works on divine abilities, because it is a divine ability in itself. So that's kind of sad, and it just, any of the normal buffs aren't anything too broken that you want to be using, but there's no denying that is a pretty good ability. But the biggest problem is that it's random, so if I have more than one stat buff on someone, it might just like, oh, make my useless speed buff last forever instead of my advanced magic buff. You see what I mean? Like, it lasts, but it's random, and sometimes it really isn't even that much worth lasting, right? Alright, next is going to be Steal, which is a very good ability, of course, to get items built up. But I feel like you can really buy all the items in this game, and stealing from NPCs is good. And you have so much cash, but stealing is always nice. If you have an extra turn, getting some free items is never something that I will ever be complaining about. Next is going to be Luminescence, which is going to be your only light attack for like the majority of the game until you get Arcanist. I guess that's only like half the game, but it's going to be your one light attack, your one way of dealing light damage until you beat Temenos' story and get Heavenly Shine, and until you get Blessing from the Arcanist. And this is going to be just a great light attack, a great damage dealer for your Cleric for a while, and it's pretty dang good. Next is going to be another Cleric ability, Heal Wounds. Heal Wounds is not all that good until... But the cool thing is you can buff it with Advanced Magic and Aliphin's Wisdom to make it a really good healing ability. But honestly, unless you have a Stone of Truth on your hands, I wouldn't really waste it just to heal when Cassie's just by far the best healer. This is nice for, like, if you have Agnia Cleric. I like to run Agnia Cleric, so she's the one I really use Heal Wounds with. But even still, Temenos, Prayer for Plenty, Seal Teach, Seduction is going to be much better than this. There's just so many things that I really do enjoy better than Heal Wounds. And yeah, I just find Heal Wounds to be pretty mid. Next is going to be Tin Horn, which restores a decent amount of latent power to everybody. It's just a nice thing to have in your back pocket when you just need some more latent powers. It's never like anything too special, but it's also just good. Like restoring latent power to your whole party, I don't see why that would be bad. Like, it's not like the best thing you can get, but it's still pretty good. Next is going to be Elemental Bomb Bottle, which is basically just Aggressive Slash and Dancer's Blade, but much more versatile because it basically works with any weakness. Maybe only magic weaknesses. I can't remember. I could have sworn I did it with physical weaknesses too, but maybe I'm just delusional because I usually am. But Elemental Bomb Bottle is good because it is just a more versatile version of like Dancer's Blade and Mischievous Step. But like I was saying, it's still not as good as Temenos Scholar or even Temenos Arms Master or like Ochet Provoke Beast spamming. Like, really, it's not as good as those things. Next is going to be Veil of Darkness, which is a very solid dark attack. The problem is it's on Throne, so unless you're going to make her a mage, it's kind of bad. However, it's a good dark attack. It's going to be your best dark attack for a while until you get Malice. And it's not like there is a Heavenly Shine. Like, there's no Heavenly Shine replacement for dark attacks. Like, Veil of Darkness is really, honestly, probably the best dark attack in the game, other than Malice. Because, I mean, Malice I really like because it can also heal you as well. But yeah, honestly, biggest problem with this ability is it's not bad, but it's just only on Throne, and I'm never going to be using magic with Throne. If this was something you could get on any character, it'd probably be up there with Malice, maybe even better. But honestly, it's just not that good because it's limited to Throne, and it also gives you, it lets you evade one attack, which is also nice, but it's not as good as Sidestep either. So yeah, Veil of Darkness is a very good dark attack, but yeah, don't use it on Throne Aid, you know. Ultimate Stance is one I ranked way higher on my EX skills list, and then I realized it's not really that good. I mean, it's kind of good if you're fighting enemies with the same weakness. Like, if you use Ultimate Stance real quick and then you hit a bunch of times, let's say, a great example would be, yeah, Ultimate Stance, and then, yeah, just hitting full boost. Let's say the bird enemies, bird enemies usually are weak to bow, so, like, having 4-hit bow on everyone. Like, it's nice. Ultimate Stance is good. But I'd rather just use something like Shinjumanji-Giri or Learned Skill. I've totally changed my mind since I made that video. It's kind of dumb because a lot of people have watched that video. But, you know, it's fine. We all grow and evolve. Alright, next let's move to All-Purpose Tool. Which, if you really are spamming Inventor abilities, this can be really good. But personally, I didn't really use many Inventor abilities multiple times in one battle. So using All-Purpose Tool was kind of stupid for me. But for people who do use it, I feel like this is a good place to put on the list. It's not too crazy because, I mean, yes, it starts all your inventions up. But I feel like just using a turn to do... I mean, yeah, you don't want to be using a turn to do that. But also, by the end of a battle, like, that means you had to... Like, if you want to even run out of inventions, that's like, what, 7 turns? And then you actually used all your inventions. And then you might want to use All-Purpose Tool, but, like... Yeah, by that point, I've usually won every single battle, so I don't know. It's not my favorite, but it's not too bad either. Next is going to be another Inventor skill, which is going to be Changeable Catapult, which is very good if you get it, like, right out of New Delsta, because it makes so that you can break any weapon type. But it's also a weak ability, especially if, like, it doesn't do that much damage, especially if you don't actually, let's say you're using the Axe Changeable Catapult, but you can only equip swords and shields or something. That was a bad example because I think inventors have to have axes, but you get the point. Swords and shields, that's not even, oh my gosh, swords and spears, what am I saying? Terrible example all the way there, but basically just using Changeable Catapult is weak unless you actually have that weapon type equipped, and usually by that point you just have a better attack anyway. So it's good to break enemies earlier in the game if you get the Inventor job right away, but it's nothing too crazy. Next is going to be Remedy, which can get you huge stat buffs and can play really well to like Enervating Slash. I don't really think it's my favorite ability, but yeah, getting 9 stat buffs on full boost is impressive. If not amazing, it's still pretty cool that you can get that many stat boosts. And if you can get that, what am I saying, on Seal Tiege Seduction, you can get 9 stat boosts to your whole party, which is not my favorite, but there's some good implications there. So yeah, definitely ability worth checking out. Even if you don't really end up liking it that much, it's definitely worth checking out. Alright, next is going to be Armor Corrosive, which debuffs an enemy's defense, which is always good to deal extra damage. Although Ochet's latent power is going to be better, Ochet doesn't always have access to her latent power, so just debuffing an enemy's defense is very nice. Next is going to be Shackle Foe. Same idea, but debuffing their attack. Very good ability. A little bit better for sure, but also, yeah, you can just raise their defense. Sacred Shield, Prayer for Plenty. There's a lot of other things that you can do. Sidestep with Seal of Diffusion. There's just a lot of other things that you can be doing to lower damage to you that is probably more efficient. Next is going to be Indomitable Beast, which just basically makes you a stronger attacker. It gives you a lot of little buffs, but it's nothing too crazy in my opinion. I didn't really use it. I had better things to do with Ochet. If it was on the Hunter job, it might just be better, but like that would be pretty good actually. But yeah, since it's only on yourself and you're only buffing some of those pretty not that good things to buff, it's just not the best. If you combine this with like Seal of Diffusion, it could be a nice stat buff for the whole party, but nothing too crazy. Prayer to the Flame is next. Basically just combine Mole Dance and Sheltering Veil from the first game. Basically kind of like Star Song. It gives you defense and elemental defense, and that is really good. It's a great buff. Get All Together Now or Seal Tiege Seduction, and you got a pretty dang good buff on your hands. It's still nothing like game breaking, but it's still deserving of a relatively higher spot on the A tier. Next, we're going to be moving to Surprise Attack, which is probably like the strongest thing you can be doing physically for like the first half of the game. If you have Throne A, Surprise Attack, it's always going to be dealing like huge damage earlier in the game. Some people might say like they like some other abilities better, like I don't know, like drastic measures, but I just personally really liked surprise attack. It was a fun ability, it's a cool ability, and with Throne always going first usually for me, surprise attack was a surprisingly powerful ability. It was like taking like 9,000 damage. Like I was taking like 4,000 damage within like the first hour of the game. And yeah, that was really impressive. And it really, I mean, it obviously falls off really hard later in the game, but it is a great ability to start off with. Next is going to be Share SP, which is even better in this game than in the first game, in theory, but not really, because it shares SP to your whole party, which is honestly awesome. But really, Casti is just going to be better at healing SP to your whole party, and you don't have to use Partitio's SP up. And yeah, it's only on Partitio, and you don't have the Steal SP Share SP combo. That was just such a fun and unique and good ability in the first game. So yeah, Share SP here is in theory better, but in practice not. So yeah, Archer's Coil is the next ability. This one can be combined with Altogether Now or Seal Teach Seduction to great effect, but otherwise, yeah, it just has a 7-turn recharge time. That's its biggest downfall, but it can restore full BP, HP, and SP, and revive an ally. Like, that's insane. But also, like, Doter's Charity can let you do that on everybody, so I'm not too impressed, and that can be used as long as you have a decent amount of BP instead of 7 turns of play, so not too good. Hastening Hammer is good. It deals some good damage. It doesn't make you waste a lot of BP like all-purpose tool, and it saves some time on your next invention. I don't really think it's all that insane. I used it a lot more than, I mean, it's a decent, for a support class, it's a decent attack, and it isn't too bad. Since I was mostly only spamming Critical Scope for the most part, like that was the reason I really took an inventor to my party that often. Once I ran out of Critical Scope, I would use Hastening Hammer to get it a little faster. That was my vibe. Like, I didn't really find too big of a use for all-purpose tool, whereas Hastening Hammer was a little bit stronger and up my alley. But in theory, yeah, Hastening Hammer is probably worse than all-purpose tool. I'd just rather not use that much BP on that. So next are going to be the 3 basic spells: Ice Wind, Lightning Bolt, and Fireball. These can all be pretty nice if you are using Advanced Magic or Elephant's Wisdom, and can be pretty dang damaging with those and Concentrate Spell. But it really isn't my favorite. I'd rather be using Elemental Barrage in like 95% of circumstances. And yes, they're good, but if I'm going to be like using Elephant's Wisdom, Advanced Magic, Stone of Truth, I want to be using something like One True Magic or Heavenly Shine. So yeah, not my favorite. And there are definitely better attacking magic out there. Also, like Windy Refrain is another good example. Malice or Blessing. But, you know, these aren't too bad. The fact that they're this high on this list honestly surprised me, though. Next is going to be Springy Boots, which is absolutely broken at the beginning of the game. Like I was saying with Surprise Attack, I would just give Springy Boots to a couple of my characters and just have them act early, like super early. Like, this is like Chapter 1 broken, because you just get a bunch of people using Surprise Attack over and over again, dealing tons of damage early in the game. And it's also nice later in the game because you can just guarantee someone to go first every turn. Even Windy Refrain can't do that. If you're really just trying to have, like, I don't know, Casti go first every turn, or some reason still using Surprise Attack late in the game, getting Throne to go first, like, there's definitely uses for Springy Boots. I think it's one of the best. Inventor abilities, probably my second favorite. Yeah, probably my second favorite. A good one, especially early in the game. Next is going to be Donate BP, which is very good. Not as good as in the first game, but still very good. Casti really can, with Strengthening Serum, Diffusing Serum, or whatever it's called, and Pomegranate Leaf, can really just give tons of BP to the entire party, or Step Ahead, or Boost Start, or even... yeah, there's a lot of ways to get BP. However, there's no denying that Donate BP plus BP Regeneration plus Hoot and Holler is going to be absolutely broken. It makes Partitio an OP BP battery, and it's honestly insane. It's not as good as it was in the first game because there are just so many other ways to like get BP even really early in the game, but it's still a very good ability. Next is going to be Precise Shot, which is basically just a better Dancer's Blade, Aggressive Slash, or Elemental Bomb Battle, because it is going to be hitting whatever enemy you choose. Like, you can get up to like 5 attacks, 5 hits. You can just pick whatever enemies you want. Like, you can just go all 5 on one enemy and just deal a ton of damage, break them all, or you can just scatter it around on like a group of birds and like just have a whole deal going on there. Like, it's not insane, but it definitely is a high A tier ability. It's something I use quite a bit, and it just deals good damage, especially early in the game. Just being able to hit 5 times earlier in the game is impressive. Next is going to be Dre Fendi's Bow, which I honestly like better than quite a bit better than Dre Fendi's Rage from the first game. And I'm surprised that it ended up being better than Abra's Reckoning, in my opinion. But this is kind of like your replacement Aerostorm. It hits 3 times for bow attack on all enemies. It's not as good as Aerostorm was in the first game, but it still is a solid ability. It does quite a bit of damage. It's not too bad. Yeah, and it can hit 3 times, which is a lot more than can be said about a lot of other damaging abilities. So that's nice. It's pretty powerful, and it can potentially hit up to 300,000 damage, which is something that most damaging abilities cannot do, so that's impressive. Alright, next is going to be Advanced Magic, which is not as good as Aliphan's Wisdom, but it is pretty solid earlier in the game if you really do like Ice Wind, Lightning Bolt, Fireball, I guess anything, so like Luminescence, whatever. But it gets outclassed by the Stone of Truth later in the game, where you can just basically always have Advanced Magic and Aliphan's Wisdom. And yeah, during the time I would actually use Advanced Magic, I preferred Elemental Barrage. And then once I had Aliphan's Wisdom, I had like One True Magic and Heavenly Shine, which I like to use with Aliphan's Wisdom. So honestly, Advanced Magic just came at the wrong time for me, but yeah. Next is going to be Leg Hold Trap, which is not as good as it was in the first game because Windy Refrain is simply better, but this is still a broken ability. I mean, I still put it in like 32nd, but like that means that all these other abilities that are coming after it are really good when Leg Hold Trap is this slow. But yeah, Windy Refrain is just a better version of it, so I couldn't put it any higher. Next is going to be Dance of Immunity, which allows you to be immune to enabling... what am I saying? Enfeebling effects, so that's pretty good, but nothing like game breaking or anything, so kind of good but not too good. So yeah, what am I saying? It's good, but like not S tier or anything. Like preventing enfeebling effects will always be good, but it's also situational. Like one of those, like I was saying in the first game, Rehabilitate or Reflective Barrier or any of that stuff. It's really good, but only in certain circumstances. It's S plus tier in certain circumstances. So that's what these next few abilities are going to be like as well. Seal of Inversion, same idea as Dance of Immunity. I personally like it a little bit better because it makes the debuffs into buffs, but it also is a little less reliable. So Seal of Inversion and Dance of Immunity, either way, pretty decent. And Dance of Immunity only works in advance, so Seal of Inversion is like the cure to enfeebling effects. So I kind of like Seal of Inversion a little better. Rehabilitate, curing status effects, preventing status effects, as good as always, so really good. But yeah, situational as well. Next is going to be Seal of Immortality, which basically gives you 1 Hang Tough and can be used on everyone if you use Seal of Diffusion. But honestly, I'd rather just equip Hang Tough and be able to spam it as much as possible instead of just relying on the one Seal of Immortality Hang Tough. But also some characters I don't want to be wasting a slot on Hang Tough. So I think this is a solid ability, top of A tier, but nothing that I would put in S tier. And the last one in A tier, like I said, another situational one, but OP one. It's going to be Reflective Barrier. This is basically makes any magic just completely worthless. Does a ton of damage back to the boss. Like, there's nothing to be complaining about with Reflective Barrier. Not an S tier ability, but definitely an A tier ability. Definitely one you should use. So yeah. Now let's get into the S tier. Alright, next we have S tier, and the first in S tier is going to be Bewildering Grace. This is one that I don't really like, but technically you can get 100 times XP or JP from it, so I feel like it kind of has to be an S tier, but it kind of sucks otherwise, so I don't know. But yeah, it really is S tier, not something I'll ever use, but yeah. Next is going to be Malice, the best dark attack in the game. It restores HP as well, which is really nice. It's like a soul stealing type vibe. It's really good if you put it on someone like Oswald, who can do a lot of damage. Or maybe even Temenos. I'd rather put it on Oswald, though. And next is going to be Blessing, which is better than Malice. It's the second best light attack in the game. And it also restores SP. So it's really good. I was going to put Malice above since it's really the best dark attack. But then I was like, Blessing restores SP, so yeah. Next is going to be Warlord Spear Giant Swing, which does a ton of damage to all enemies, which is always good. You can get it on anyone. It's not as good as Shinjimanjigiri, but it also can be used on anyone. I think it, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure if you kill targets, it restores your BP or something. I don't really understand. I feel like that's a thing, but I could be just an idiot. That might have to do with the Warlord Spear itself and not the ability. Maybe I'm just smoking crack or something, but like, I don't know. Anyway, next is Shinjimanjigiri, which is very powerful. I totally underestimated this ability last time. It's just so easy and accessible. Like, some of those learned skills take a lot of SP or some of that stuff. Shinjimanjigiri is cheap. It doesn't require crazy boosting, and it does more damage than Brand's Blade. But to everybody, check the damage multipliers on it. And from some people who were giving me the stats in the comment section, and I think they're a credible source, but they were saying that Shinjimanjigiri has better damage multipliers than Brand's Blade, which is crazy because it hits twice and it hits everyone, so that's crazy. It's a really good ability, but it's not like S plus tier, but definitely an S tier ability. Next is going to be One True Magic, which is very powerful if you have like Aliphan's Wisdom on. If you don't, I would definitely go Shinjimanjigiri, but hitting 3 times, it breaks enemies 3 times. It's going to be probably, I don't know, the second strongest magic attack in the game in terms of pure hard damage. So yeah, it's a really good ability, great at breaking shields, but not the most damaging magic ability. The most damaging magic ability is going to be next. That's going to be Heavenly Shine. It is super powerful, especially if you have the Aliphan's Wisdom on. You can easily do 99,990 damage 3 times without even having to worry about it. However, the biggest problem here is it takes all your SP away. And if you have your SP in the rafters, it's going to do so much damage. But it takes all your SP away, which isn't that big of a deal if you have some jams and stuff. But still, it's always going to take an extra turn. So basically, expect 2 turns worth of setup for Heavenly Shine. I think it's really good, but not anything too good that I would consider putting any higher. Next is going to be Song of Hope, which extends your buffs, which I was like, well, I put Hex super low, so why should I put this higher? Because this affects the whole party. It affects the whole party, and it crazily extends all their buffs, and it's not just random buffs. It's not one random buff or any crap like that. It's all your buffs. It extends all of them. Basically, yeah, you can get like a 5-turn extend on Advanced Magic. You can get a 5-turn extend on every one of your buffs. It's awesome. I didn't use it that much, but when I did use it, it was amazing. So, yeah. Next is going to be the awesome combo that really should have been in the first game. Insight and Vengeful Blade. This is absolutely broken for challenging. This is absolutely broken for fights that are really just physical oriented. The counterattacks do a ton of damage, especially compared to the crap fest that is eye for eye. There's the, Insight, which is super good. Again, tanking damage, Vengeful Blade, fighting back. And if an enemy has a multi-hit attack, Vengeful Blade hits multiple times too. And you can just stack up Vengeful Blade so many times. And it can do a ton of damage. Like, it's impressive. Next is going to be Aliphan's Wisdom, which can make Heavenly Shine or One True Magic very powerful. I felt like I should put it above those two, because without Aliphan's Wisdom, they aren't really that powerful. I mean, Heavenly Shine can still do some good damage, but like, they're still kind of mid without Aliphan's Wisdom, so I had to put Aliphan's Wisdom above those two. Next is going to be Revive, which is just amazing. Like I said in the first game, reviving everybody with one spell is broken as always, especially if you boost it. I didn't use it as much, but in this game also, it is the best way to revive though, because in the first game, Olive of Life with large Olive of Life with Saving Grace is the best way to revive. no longer. It's going to be revive is the best way to revive, unless you have so much HP that Olive of Life Large will actually mean something. But yeah, so revive is a great reviving ability. Sacred Shield is the next ability, and potentially, if you get this on your whole party, Seal Tiege, or all together now, you can potentially just nullify a whole attack for 100% damage. Or if you spam it, if you get a lot of BP over and over again, get some good latent power, you can just stack up Sacred Shields. And although it's probably not as good as like Hikari's Divine Protection learned skill, because you can literally spam that every turn, but this one is still really good, and learned skills are just broken in general. But yeah, Sacred Shield is a great ability, and early in the game, and putting it on your Insight character early in the game, even when you aren't spamming Seal Tiege Seduction, Sacred Shield can be very, very impressive, so love that. Next is going to be potentially the most damaging ability in the game outside of learned skills or Sixfold Strike, because Sixfold Strike can hit 6 times. This is probably the most reliable damage dealer in the game, in my opinion, and that is going to have to be Lionheart's Axe on the Hunt. I don't know what's with these names, but this does 2 hits of damage, but for some reason it's just so powerful. Like, easily, like, upon getting it, right after you get it, easily will do max damage twice, if you even care to boost it, like, 2 times. Like, I did, like, 90,000 total damage with 1 BP on this ability. It's absolutely busted. It's not going to be as good as most of Hikari's broken learned skills, but it is still worth using. Loved using it for Throne or like Ochette or whoever I'm putting Arms Master on. Next is going to be Negotiate Schedule. This is an absolutely broken ability. It steals a turn from the enemy and gives you an extra turn. As much as this is broken though, sadly, it's not going to be the best, because not everyone is you can't use it on everyone, but anyone you can use it on, use it on. It's cracked. Next is going to be the age-old Seal Diffusion Sidestep combo. It's basically Transferune Sidestep from the first game, but yeah, these are going to be the top of S tier. Just makes physical attacks just so easy to dodge. Like, and even more broken, do this and give everyone, not everyone, but like as many people as possible Vengeful Blade. You'll be doing, like, no one will be getting hit, and you'll just be doing tons of damage back, breaking. It's awesome. It's hilarious when you have a team of people with Vengeful Blade, Sealed Diffusion, and Sidestep. It's awesome. But yeah. Alright, let's move into the S plus tier now. Almost done, guys. This has been very long. Alright, let's finish off this S plus tier strong and quick. The first in S plus tier is going to be Elemental Barrage. This is an absolutely fantastic ability. Get Seal Tiege Seduction, get Temenos Latent Power, and you are going to be hitting everybody for insane amounts of breaking. Sure, Sixfold Strike is going to be better, but Elemental Barrage is cheap, it's good, it's great for Temenos, because a lot of people are like, well, Brighton, use Arms Master Temenos. And I'm like, I know, but also he's a magic attacker. I don't want to be attacking with Temenos. Like, I'm going to be saving Sixfold Strike for Throne. But anyway, that's just a personal opinion. But yeah, Elemental Barrage, I love this ability. It looks so cool. It's really broken, like for Oswald Mug Sidestep Merchant crap, you know. Mugging is awesome. But anyway, I love Elemental Barrage. This might just be a bias, but I do think it is one of the best abilities in the game, since it is so fantastic at breaking. And early in the game, you don't really have Sixfold Strike right when you get early in the game, and I really don't think the Arms Master should be wasted on Temenos when the Scholar can usually do just as well. So yeah. Anyway, next is going to be Seal Tiege Seduction, which is broken. There's so many circumstances where it's just amazing in this game, particularly, like, I don't know. Oh, I just realized Vengeful Blade can probably be used as Seal of Diffusion. That is a really cool idea. Anyway, just wanted to point that out. Anyway, Seal Tiege Seduction. There are some, let me see, what are the ones that I was going to say are broken? Oh yeah, Sacred Shield with Seal Tiege is broken. That one's pretty nice. However, there are 2, Elemental Barrage, Sixfold Strike, Provoke Beasts, Doter's Charity. Nope, you can't use Divine Skills on Divine Skills. Never mind, I was going to say that's too broken. But anyway, there's a lot of these broken Seal Tiege combos, but of course my favorite is Prayer for Plenty, which basically just reenacts Saving Grace from the first game, which is absolutely busted. But yeah, anyway, yeah, Seal Tiege Seduction is even better than it was in the first game. Even though Agnia still has it as a latent power, Agnia can't do... She can't use Prayer for Plenty. She can't use... I mean, she can't use Elemental Barrage, but don't waste it on her. But mostly just saying here, Elemental Barrage, it's basically Seal Teeth Seduction, which just unlocks Temenos' true power with Elemental Barrage Judgment or Prayer for Plenty. And really, those two abilities are broken without Seal Teeth Seduction. So, give it Seal Teeth Seduction and you'll be absolutely broken. Alright, now we're like an hour in. We need a couple more abilities. We're almost there. Next is going to be Provoke Beasts, which is potentially the most broken breaking ability in the game. I don't know why I just said broken breaking, but you can get, I mean, even just base full boosted is going to be, what, 6, you can get 6 breaks on an enemy just with Akala or Mahina. But if you think about it, if you really go into the battle prepped, let's say I get, what's that one guy called? A Marionette something, Marionette Bones or something. It hits 3 times with a staff. Let's say there's an enemy who is weak to staff. 3 times 6, 18. And then, let's say, for the heck of it, Alfred's Blessing, 36. You can hit 36 times. Break an enemy, hit 36 times. That's potentially the best thing. Best way to break in the game. I still think that Temenos is just more fun, more... I don't know. I'd feel like I wanted to have a lot of those more like powerful ones like Revenants or Legendary Beasts. But honestly, this might even be higher on the list. I just didn't experiment with it enough. But honestly, no, I think this is a good spot for it because the things that are next on this list are even more broken. And that's crazy. Because honestly, Temenos' Judgment usually gets the job done. There's not really any bosses where you really have to break like 32 times. Like that's kind of extreme, honestly. But yeah. Anyway... And Judgment can be, yeah, I don't know. But Provoke Beast, oh, another thing that Provoke Beast can do. Honestly, I should have moved this ability up, but for now I'm just going to keep it where it is. But Provoke Beast, you can do Chubby Kate 6 times, which can give you Opulent Olive, Opulent Restorative, Opulent Trio, whatever the other one's called that I'm missing. Maybe it doesn't even exist. I don't really know what I'm talking about. But, oh my gosh. That's crazy. Like, think about that. You can get 6 uses of that in a row. That's absolutely broken. Honestly, I think I should have moved this up 4 slots. So keep that in mind. It's up like 2 or 3, 4 slots because I just forgot about the Chubby Kate thing. So that's embarrassing. Alright, next is going to be Windy Refrain, but not actually next because Provoke Beast is going to be above. But anyway. Windy Refrain is basically just OP leg hold trap because it makes all your characters go before. So basically, it's just a leg hold trap if it was used with Altogether Now or Seal Teeth Seduction, on top of doing the best wind damage of any ability in the game. It's absolutely crazy how good it is. So, yeah, it's just amazing. Next is going to be Hired Help, which potentially can do like the most damage in the game. It can buff, not most damage in the game, it can do insane damage, it can debuff, buff, break shields, I don't know. Hired Help is even more versatile than it was in the first game, and I put an S+ there, and it's even better now, so that's insane. Next, I'm going to be putting Critical Scope. I love this ability. It might not be better than Hired Help, but I think I like it better because it guarantees you critical hits on the enemies. So basically, you can just spam anything, and you're going to be doing like double damage. It's crazy how good this is, and it's not. It doesn't require any SP. It doesn't require any BP. You might need an extra couple turns to wait for a second use, but if you boost it enough at the beginning of the battle, you won't have to worry about really using it a second time. And if you do, Hastening Hammer's got your back. It's really good. So yeah, Critical Scope is solid. And then next, this is where I would actually put Provoke Beasts, just so you know, right here. Alright, let's move on. Next is going to be Sixfold Strike, which is broken, one of the strongest attacks in the game. It's like Winild's Battle Cry, but you don't even need to like get BP for it. I don't think it does as much damage, but if you get like the Giant's Club and you get that one freaking sword, Battle Tested Blade, oh my gosh, you're doing tons of damage. You can get 600,000 damage if you have the right setup. And yeah, technically this can be the most powerful attack in the game. Is it like, it's not the easiest to set up, but yeah, if you have Critical Scope, you can, yeah, it's just broken. There we go. Alright, next is going to be Prayer for Plenty, which is insane. It's basically just Saving Grace from the first game. If you loved Saving Grace there, you're going to love this ability. It's great. You can use it whenever you want. And if you have Seal Teach Seduction, it's even crazier. And it's just a good single target healing ability. It heals a ton of health. It's probably the best healing ability in the game. Yeah, it's not multi-target, which it originally was going to be, I've heard, which that would have been insane. But yeah, Prayer for Plenty, single target, Seal Teach Seduction can work with it. But then yeah, if you have Prayer for Plenty, even as just a single target heal, it's already a really good ability. But yeah. Next is going to be Doter's Charity, which I didn't rank as high on the last list, but honestly, I felt like it was just easier to get broken items here in this game, and I feel like I didn't use jams as much early in the game, and I felt like I had a huge stock of them. Also, there's like 5 types of jams in this game instead of 2 like in the first game, so it's a little bit more reliable, and you can use it more often, and it just lets you use broken items on your entire party. It's just, like, being able to just Mega Elixir over and over and over and over again, basically, that's just insane. But it's not as insane as the best ability in Octopath Traveler 2, which is going to be Aelfric's Blessing. For 3 turns, this ability gives you 2 turns. So basically, it goes from 3 turns to 6 turns. And if you use, the show goes on, it can be 4 turns. If Song of Hope works, Divine Skills, which I don't know if it does, but if it does, that's broken. But just even if this ability gave you 1 extra turn, it'd already be one of the best abilities in the game. But no, it gives you 3 extra turns. Minimum. And that's if you don't use other things with it. It's just absolutely crazy. I don't know how this really passed playtesting or anything, but yeah. Thank you guys all for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, please check out some other videos on the channel. I'm sorry this was kind of long, but I kind of had to do it justice because this was a long ranking and I really wanted to keep it in depth, as all of my videos are. If you enjoyed this video, yeah, check out other videos. Like, subscribe, ring the notification bell, check out our website, rpgrank.com, as well as our Twitter, as well as our awesome merch. We will probably be updating the merch store soon because, I don't know, even if anyone's clicked on it, like, it's kind of limited right now because there's not been enough people buying it. So if we can get more sales on the merch, there will be more merch, and that would be awesome. Again, thank you guys all for watching this video, and have a fantastic day. Peace out, RPG nerds. Go do something fun.